Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. I hope everybody is fitting well. I hope you've all had a fantastic weekend and a very lovely week. And it's nice to see a few of you in the chat this evening. How's everyone doing? What's your plans tonight? Who's got a bit of hobbying on the table tonight? I saw Luke's doing a bit of TT Combat Star Wars Legion terrain, gluing his fingers together. What are the rest of you up to? What's your plans? Who have we got in the chat tonight? Lord Maiden, hello Ian, how are you doing? He was in nice and early saying hello to everyone. We had Marcus in nice and early as well. Hello Marcus, how are you? Peter Kuhlman, Ortega, hello in the rerun again, fella. Said he had no idea Wild West Exodus was getting a third edition, but he can't stay tonight, so you look forward to seeing the catch up. Yeah, we'll be having a chat about that. So I thought what we'd talk about tonight, before we go on too far, we'll have a bit of a roundup. Basically, there's a few bits and pieces have been kind of going on behind the scenes, from different companies, things happening. It feels like we're kind of getting that pre-Christmas kind of push at the moment now. So yeah, there's a few things to talk about. Wild West Exodus is obviously one of the bigger ones, but there's a few I want to talk about as well. So yes, that will not just be talking about Wild West Exodus tonight, although I will be talking about it. Ice Moon, good evening to you, sir. Nigel Jones, hello to you as well. Hello Blizzards. We've also got, as he scrolls down, we've got Yoakum in as well, saying, I must admit I'm weak for starter sets, especially those that Andy likes to talk about. I do like a starter set. There's something about a self-contained starter set that I can buy, and as long as there's everything that I need in the box to be able to play it, I almost can treat them like a board game, or treat them like a video game, as in I don't need to buy anything else for it. As long as there's enough in the box to kind of have a complete experience, be that hobbying and gaming and stuff, I like a starter set, I'll be honest. Luke Pryor, hello fella, how are you doing? Frederick Schultz is in as well. He says, is YouTube still up? I'm glad it is, mate. I think everything else is pretty much down, so yeah, it's nice to see YouTube still working for a change. Busey, good evening, mate, how are you? Hello Christian, thank you very much as well for sending a little birthday gift to my son. He was over the moon when he opened it, and as you can imagine, Ben 10 has been played a lot with the last few days, mate, since his birthday. John Estel, good evening to you, mate. How are you doing? Sorry to hear your game was pushed back a night, but you get to come and hang out with us, lovely lot. Good evening, Jill, as well, saying hello evening to all you lovely hobbyists. Lovely hobbyists, Jill? Yeah, are we talking about the same people? Stu's in as well. Hello, Stu. We've got Kath Smith as well, saying evening from the Smith family. Good evening, Smith family. I hope you're all very well too. Jason saying he's never played Wild West Exodus, but it has some of the coolest looking models right up with Malifaux. I would say that everyone kind of praises the GW stuff, and like it's almost kind of taken for granted now GW make good figures. But outside of GW, I would say that there's probably Wild West Exodus or War Cradle with their resin miniatures. There's Malifaux with their plastic stuff. There's Corvus Belly with their Infinity Metals. And I think some of the stuff that Mantic do as well with some of their newer resins, I think they're up there amongst the best now, to be fair. And those are companies that I wouldn't necessarily have put in that bracket in the past. So it's interesting to see how things have changed. Michael Cowan, good evening to you, mate. Hello, Peter Nicholas as well. Seeing anyone else able to access Facebook? Yeah, there's a problem with Facebook, with Instagram, and with WhatsApp at the minute, mate. They're all owned by Facebook, and they've got some kind of outage thing at the minute. Who else we got here? Christopher Hill saying, digging the intro music. I like to mix it up now and again. Luke says, Wild West Exodus is one of those games that took the weird Wild West too far. I don't feel it's Wild West anymore. I don't think it ever really was Wild West, mate. And I think everyone kind of thinks it was a kind of cowboys game, but actually right back from the start, or certainly from when War Cradle got a hold of it, it's always had kind of the whole story is about aliens coming to Earth, to be fair. So yeah, I don't think it's changed. I think it's just that people are starting to understand more about it now, to the point where actually people get their heads around it and they go, it's not the cowboy game I thought it was. Vijay's just finishing up his run. Well done, mate. Jason saying, love when Andy changes up the music. I just read that there. Of course, it popped off my screen as I was reading. Love when Andy changes the bumper music to fit the show stream. You are very welcome, mate. Carl Check says, hello all. Hello, Carl, how are you? Rob Fannelson's in as well. Happy Monday to you, mate. Wayne's in as well, saying, not painting Wild West Extra tonight, but music suits the Cowboys. I am painting. Yeehaw, brother. Luke says, I played so many games this weekend, and my boy and I tried the Pokemon TCG. I saw the pictures, mate. I haven't had a chance to kind of comment and catch up on the weekend stuff, but yeah, I saw you played a few games. Marcus is saying he's taking pictures of his freshie coats. Nice one. Jill's going to crack out some minis for painting. Marcus is saying be kind and drop a like. Yeah, I like always goes it never goes amiss. It helps tell the interwebs that people are enjoying it. So yeah, thank you very much. Peter saying he had to move all his hobby stuff from his work table to make room for a wall clock repair. Sounds like you've been you had time on your hands. Is a bit of a dad joke there. Bliss says I won't say what I've got on the table. You can probably guess. I'm assuming it's a Malifaux, is it? Well, are we guess at that one tonight? Yorkham's painting his Maw Crusher. Bobby Clark, good evening, sir. He said he was on a sculpting course at the weekend, but looking forward to doing some green stuff work now. Nice one. VJ saying Dead Zone 3, the best 3.0 coming up. We are talking about Dead Zone as well, mate, to be fair. Peter saying hashtag starter sets. I love a little starter set, mate. I'm a big fan of them. Big fan. For you saying you might be a little biased. Lord Min says he's trying to repeat an Executioner from Malifaux. It's going okay. Okay is all you need, mate. As long as it's going, that's all you need. Andrew Fairbanks, good evening, sir. He says, me have big plans in the works, but working and trying to avoid the lovely members in the chat for now. Trying to avoid the members in the chat. It may have big plans in the works. Well, I hope everything goes to plan, mate. We've got Scar72, good evening to you. Wargaming Dad, hello as well. Says he's working on some Marvel Crisis Protocol. Nice to see some new names in the chat tonight. Welcome to any new members. If this is your first time here, thank you very much for checking out my stream. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. It'd be very, very kind of you. Luke said I would have to throw TT Combat in with some of their resins at the moment. Not always, but when they crush a sculpt, they really crush it. They've definitely... How can I put this? They've got a mixed bag. I think you're right, mate. I think when they do a good one, it is good, but they're not consistently good yet. I think like if we take the War Cradle resins, I think that they're kind of unanimously all really, really nice. But we're going to be talking about War Cradle plastics as well tonight, to be fair. Let's have a little look here. Lord Maiden said he just saw a brain implant can help with depression. So can just sort of focusing on happy things, mate. You don't have to have a brain implant. Scott says, evening all, how is everyone? Hello, Scotty. VG says, in the age of digital sculpting, there's no excuse for poor sculpts. I don't think it's necessarily poor sculpts, mate. I think it depends on who the companies get sculpting, because I think people who sculpt for like 3D animation, like sort of video games and stuff like that, it's a different skill set to 3D sculpting for miniatures, because things that look great on a screen don't always come out in the resin casting, and the way you cast them as well can also influence it as well. So I think it's more a case of are the companies getting the right people to cast them, I think. To sculpt them and cast them, because they're two different things. Dan Kennedy, hello to you, mate. VG says something moving away from Wild West is not a bad thing. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, isn't it? It's basically like some people like Wild West games, some people don't like Wild West games, but I would say it's like Wild West Exodus. I know it's got Wild West in the title, but it's not just your standard kind of cowboys kind of Wild West game. It's just set in a Wild West era. I think that's about it. So, Andrew's in 3-1. How about them Cowboys? They played well the weekend. Actually, I watched the highlights this morning. They had a good game the weekend. Tasty Brain Drain, hello to you. Blizzard saying his dust stuff is calling. God, I don't think I've ever seen any dust stuff in real life. Scott's busy painting his BattleTech stuff and some nice terrain. Yeah, post some pictures up. Yeah, it'd be good to see it, mate. And Ice Moon says, would you kindly click that like button? Yes, please. 58 people in and 28 likes. I'm sure we can squeeze a few more likes out of you lot. Luke says, I was having another look at exactly what I'm going to do for Dead Zone. I want that starter set for sure and a few extra bits. At some point, I want to get the Nameless too. Yeah. Josh Hatch Good evening, Josh. How are we doing? He says, trying real hard to get a bunch of Conquest models by Parabellum done before a local convention in 10 days. Stop distracting me with Wild West Exodus and Dead Zone. Don't have time to get off track. You need to finish what you've done, mate. And then once you've finished, you can happily play them and you don't have to worry about the hobby side. Then you can go on a hobby with lots of other stuff. Luke said he picked up his first Carnivale miniature at the weekend. And TT Combat had their exclusives up on the site. So he picked up the fish dudes. Did I hear Dust has been cancelled? I've never heard anything about Dust in years, mate, to be fair. I've got no idea. And Jill saying you won't see much Dust stuff now. They went bust last Thursday. Well, there you go. I had no idea about that one. Luke says, can we not discuss the NFL, please? Our season is written off already. I tell you what, mate. We had a rough game last night as well, to be fair. So, yeah, I'm happy to not talk about it tonight. Roll on Thursday when we can get back on the bandwagon again. So I think we might as well kind of make a start tonight, I think. So what I've got a few notes on my phone so that, let me just get this up so I can get that, because I'll be putting some stuff up on the screen. I've got some chat there beside me. Again, if anybody wants to kind of have a little kind of natter with me, if they want to ask any questions as we're going, I'll try and keep an eye on the chat as well. I'm not just going to kind of plow on and talk. I want you guys and girls to kind of to talk as well tonight and tell me what your thoughts are. It's more about like just a bit of an interactive chat about what's going on in the world, I suppose. And Dust, I didn't know anything about, so there you go. There's another one. So let's start with, let me just, of course I've put my phone over my screen so I can't see what I'm looking at, but we'll start, folks, with, everything's working, that's alright, isn't it? So we'll start with this. So this week, or this weekend just gone, War Cradle Studios, who basically do Wild West Exodus, they do Lost World Exodus, they do Dystopian Wars, they do Mythos, do a few board games as well, things like the Bill and Ted board game. They announced that there is a new 2-player starter set coming for their big game, I suppose, which is Wild West Exodus. And even more interestingly, they announced it on September the 29th, and it's actually coming in October, which is this month. So it's not like it's going to Kickstarter and like that. We don't have a long to wait. I'd imagine it'll be the back end of October, but it is coming this month. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play this video in the background while I kind of while I have a look over this. So this is their kind of trailer video. It shows you off everything that's in the 2-player starter set, and the 2-player starter set basically is called, if I can just get that back up again, is called Shadow at Retribution. Is that right? It is, isn't it? Oh, sorry, Showdown at Retribution. There it is. Showdown at Retribution, a new 2-player set, and as you can see there, it has the Union and the Enlightened in it. And if anybody remembers the Gunfight at Red Oak box set, which was, I think it had about 5 or 6 models in, there's quite a few more in this one. So you can see there, this one is, we've got Nikolai Tesla there. We've then got, who's the other one there as well? I've got the notes in front of me here. We've got Gustav Eiffel. We have Union Bell there as well. I'm going to tell you what minis you get in the box and stuff and how many of each and stuff. We've then also got Smash and Grab, very, very aptly named there, with something to smash and something to grab with. We've got Carl Fredrickson, who's also part of the Union there. We've then got Emily Nagoya, I think it is, who's part of the Enlightened. Then we have these fellas, which are called UR31E Tesla bots, and you get quite a few of those in the set. You've then got this Mono Cav, and there's also a Strider Cav as well. It's basically a multi-part kit that you can kind of build in a number of different ways, and those ones are for the Enlightened. We've then got the Iron Eagle, which is essentially kind of like a flying motorized motorbike type thing, and then we also have the Iron Horses as well. We had the Iron Horses previously in older sets as well. Now it says there, latest 3rd edition rules. Now this is not a complete rewrite of the current edition. It's essentially a kind of like a tidy up, a mop up, changing all of the different kind of the errata, tidying up some of the cards and bits and pieces. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause that there, and I'll show you the back of the box. So this is all of the things that you get inside And actually, that's a pretty good picture because it's quite clean to actually read the contents as well. So in this box, you get 1 Nikolai Tesla, 1 Union Bell, 1 Carl Fredrickson. You get 9 of the UR31E Tesla bots. You get 2 Iron Eagles. So everything, you can see my mouse there. So everything on this side here is your Union force. So there's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 models in your Union force. And then on the other side, we have 1 Gustav Eiffel, 1 Smash and Grab, 1 Emily Neuger, and 3 Mono Cav / Strider Cav. And that's these ones around here. And again, as I said before, these basically can be built one of a couple of ways. You also get 2 Iron Horses as well. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 on the side for the Enlightened there. You also get a rule book. This is a full rule book, which basically has all of the rules that you need. And again, as I said before, it's classed as a 3rd edition, but essentially it's more of a tidy up and a bit of a mop up type thing, as opposed to a fully new kind of rule set. You get a quick start guide, which is something that is sorely missing actually from a lot of games. You almost just want a kind of like a streamlined version to kind of get you rolling dice and get you around the basics. So it's nice that they've included something like that. They've also got this Showdown at Retribution campaign book, which essentially, if it's anything like the one that came with Dystopian Wars, gives you some specific kind of like sort of themed missions to play with the models that are in the set. You then get the 2 action card decks and 2 adventure card decks. So if anyone who doesn't know much about this game, the game is you still roll dice, but there are decks of cards as well, which have these action points on, and you basically draw a card, and this tells you how many sort of action points that model has this turn. So it's kind of variable amount of activations each turn, which is quite an interesting thing. The old starter set had 1 of each of those packs in. This one actually has enough of everything in for 2 people. So if 2 players want to kind of split this and play the game, it's a perfect kind of box set for that. It has a template set, so as you can see here, has a measuring template, a kind of like a what they called like a blast template type thing, and like an arc template, and those are used for for bikes turning and stuff. And these are plastic as well. These are not cardboard. These are actually sort of molded, injection molded plastic. You also get a template set. Sorry, we've just talked about their template set. You get 2 lots of tokens and counters. You can just see them down here at the bottom. And you also get 8 10-sided dice. And these basically have they have the Wild West Exodus symbol on the 10 side, and they have like a little sort of Ace of Spades type thing as well on the 1 side. So actually, everything you get inside this box is perfect for 2 players. And as it says here as well, these plastic models come unassembled and unpainted. So for all, there's a lot of resin models in Wild West Exodus. All of these starter box models are all plastic on sprues. And the quality of the War Cradle plastics is really, really good. So let me go back to this one. I think this one is one to watch out for. I'm a big fan of Wild West Exodus from a lore perspective. If you haven't seen the video that I've done about the kind of the lore and the background to Wild West Exodus, I kind of encourage you to go and watch that. It gives you a little bit of a sort of 5-minute primer about what the world's around. It's a great game. And my reservations with the game was always the fact that it took a little while to settle down. There was lots of changes when it first came out. The game's been out a little while now, and it really has kind of settled down. And this is really more of a tidy up and a reason to launch a 2-player starter box. So this is a game that you've been kind of maybe on the fence about. This might be the perfect one to dive in with. Price-wise, there's been no prices kind of mentioned yet, but there is a lot in the box. I'd imagine it's going to be up there. I'm not even going to guess at it. I can't even remember how much the Dystopian Wars box was, but yeah, it's going to be value for money. These starter boxes generally always are. So let's have a little look in the chat-a-rooney and see what folks are talking about here. Rob Brown, hello to you, mate. How you doing? Brad Peace is not familiar with Wild West Exodus. I think I remember seeing their models were quite large. No, they're not. They're not too big. They have some bigger models. I've painted quite a few on my channel. That they have some kind of larger models in the same way, sort of 40k does and stuff. But generally, they're like I suppose scale-wise, they're more heroic scale as opposed to kind of like very, very sort of 28mm small stuff. They're a bit bigger than that. I think they're classed as like 35mm, but if you measure kind of like 40k minis these days, they're not 28mm anymore, if that makes sense. Vijay says Wild West spider vehicles. Wiki Wild West. Christian sharing the link for the Patreon there. Thank you very much, sir. Jill saying Wild West X is looking great. Happy to see them teaming up with On Tabletop 2. Makes it more likely I'll be able to get some of my group to jump in. The reason they're teaming up with On Tabletop, Jill, is because Warcradle and Wayland Games, who own Warcradle, own On Tabletop as well now. They bought them out last year or earlier on this year. So On Tabletop is actually owned by the people that own Warcradle. So I think you'll see quite a lot of that in that respect. It's no kind of surprise that they cover a lot of Warcradle stuff on there. Bliss says it's a sweet looking starter for sure. Yep. Peter Tuff, good evening, Peter. Says can't wait for this box. Hopefully it'll draw more people to play. Such a great game. I think we're seeing it quite a lot now with 2-player starter sets. I think if you've got a good 2-player starter set, you can start to kind of pull a few people in, because people don't mind spending like a bit of money on them. They generally you get a good saving, and if everything's in the box that you need to play, people will buy in. We've got the same thing happening with the other side from Weird Games. They're coming with their 2-player starter set now, which again is fantastic value. We've got a really good 2-player starter set coming for Dead Zone 3.0. It'll be good to see how that takes off and if folks start to buy into that. Obviously Kill Team we've just seen as well come out recently. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of like Carnival. I think we've just been talking about that quite a lot recently as well. There's a lot of games that have a good 2-player starter set, and I think sometimes that's just enough to kind of push people in there a little bit and get them started really. The games that don't have 2-player starter sets, they always have a reason why they say, oh well, you just pick a faction and you pick up a rule book and everything's fine. And I get that, but there's nothing like a 2-player set to kind of tempt people in with a bit of value. Vijay saying, yeah, not my jam, but tidy looking starter set. Tony Howell, hello to you, fella. Sorry for the lateness, but I did bring an apple. You're forgiven, mate. Peter says, looks nice, but not my style. Glad to see a nice starter, though. It's my kind of style, I'll be honest. I like that kind of, that sort of alternative, weird, kind of Wild West sort of theming and stuff. I've got quite a lot of Wild West Exodus and Lost World Exodus minis already here and already painted up. It's my kind of jam. I'm cool with that stuff. Let's have a little look a bit further down. Peter says, is it all like Wild West? It's not all Wild West, mate. Wild West Exodus is set in the dystopian age, and this part of the story is set in the American West, basically. If you go back into the story and stuff about why it's in the West, there's reasons why it's over there. But you've got like sort of like the Enlightened and sort of a lot of like the scientists and stuff coming across from Europe. Lost World Exodus, which is part of this as well, is kind of set over in the Antarctic and into mainland Europe and stuff. You've got Dystopian Age, Dystopian Wars, which is set in the Dystopian Age, which is all kind of like set all over the globe. So it's just that this part of the story, if you like, the Wild West Exodus part of the story, is set in the American West. But the characters that are in there are not just all, it's not all cowboys. There's aliens in there, because obviously this is how kind of like alien technology gets found by humans, basically. That's how all of this stuff kind of kicks off. But you've got like sort of European scientists coming over, so there's all sorts of weird kind of steampunk and kind of sort of, what's the word, like, it's not steampunk, it's called something else when it's kind of like when you've got Tesla involved and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's got a Wild West aesthetic, but they don't ride around on horses kind of thing, and they don't really shoot pistols, to be fair. Let's have a little look here. Aaron Walker, good evening, mate. This is nice set, and I do like Wild West Exodus, but I have a little too much grey plastic at the moment. You can never have too much, mate. Tony Booth Leiden, good evening, mate. How are you doing? Says the box looks good. Wild West Exodus minis are gorgeous. They are nice, mate, aren't they? Tony saying, I really like to look at the minis, and I love the idea of a big box, but with all big box stuff, I get a lot will get left if I'm only interested in the minis. Yeah, if you're just buying them to paint, mate. The only thing I would say is it sometimes depends, actually, because you can get sometimes a really good deal on these starter boxes, by the time you get your 20% discount and stuff. And actually, it's still sometimes worth buying, picking up these boxes, selling a few bits off, or even just hanging on to them really for bits of spares and sort of kit bashing and things, because there's normally quite a lot of value in them. Andrew Fairbanks says, not for him, prefers his skirmish heroes to be nameless to make them their own. I realised I could always do this and use them as stand-ins. Yeah, I think it's like any game, really. A majority of skirmish games, to be fair, have named characters. Like, if you think of, like, Malifaux has all named characters. They're not, like, nameless kind of nobodies and stuff. But that's because they're set around a kind of, like, a narrative kind of storyline, really, and the characters are kind of important to that, really. Lucy's got a bit of love for Tesla, so don't really appreciate War Cradle dangling the carrot this way. He's been in Wild West Exodus for years, mate, so it's a new model for Nikolai Tesla and a new model for Gustav Eiffel as well, but the characters have been around for a while, so they're not brand new to the game in that respect. Michael says they have supported Wild West Exodus from the beginning, though. They have, mate, but they were paid to be fair. It was all kind of sponsored stuff. If you're talking about on tabletop or Beasts of War, they were paid to support it from the start, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're a business. That's how they make their money. But like, let's not pretend that it's like sort of it was business transactions. Jill says, yeah, I know they got bought last October, but it didn't do much for Dystopian Wars. I think the problem was it was COVID. I think you just mentioned there, COVID stalled. I think that was the problem, really, to be honest. They did do some stuff, but they haven't even really got back into the studio properly yet, and it never really seems to have got back to full strength. Like sort of how it was before COVID, and I'm sure as things kind of pick up, and I don't know what the situation is like over in Ireland where they are, but I'm sure as they can get back into the studio, I'm sure we'll see more of it now. Brad's saying so many skirmish games launching new editions. I think it's the time of year, mate, and I think especially as well, it's also like obviously coming up to Christmas, releasing new stuff, also getting back to a point where actually sort of supply chains are not perfect, but they're probably a little bit better than they were in some regards. So I think there's maybe some elements of that as well. Vijay saying, speaking of two-player starters, pretty excited that Monpok is getting a proper two-player starter. Bit odd they've chosen to kickstart it though. Do you know what it is, mate? There's red flags all over that for me, to be fair. Everything that Privateer Press has done recently has been kickstarted, and I get the impression that it's like in this respect, in the way that in the way sort of let's say in the way that Weird have released their new two-player set, in the way that Mantic have released theirs, in the way that War Cradle are releasing this one. It's a bit of a pre-order window, but they've started the ball rolling up front. They've put some money up, and they've got sort of the production started, and then they're starting to take some pre-orders in, which I think is kind of GW do a similar kind of thing, really, to be fair, although with a lot shorter kind of window. But when they're launching stuff like Monpok and what's the other one called, Warcaster, when they're launching those kind of stuff through Kickstarter, what happens is basically it kills it in the retail stores, because anybody remotely interested in it buys it at Kickstarter, and then there's no real reason for the stores to support it because everybody's already bought all the stuff they want. So for me, it's a nice way to generate a bit of cash for a company, but it's no way to build a long-term game. And I think the problem with kind of doing stuff through two-player starter sets through Kickstarter, for me, it feels like they're just like it feels like they're really, really sort of tight on a few quid, I think. Let's have a little look down here as well. Peter saying, I think it looks a bit similar to League of Gentlemen. I think it's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, maybe you're thinking of. I'm not necessarily League of Gentlemen with the from the TV, but yeah, it's that similar kind of era, kind of like late 1800s, early 1900s type thing. Brad says even the Nameless have named characters with the fear and terror. Yeah, I think, like I say, I think most miniatures games, sort of skirmish games with a few miniatures in it, tend to have some kind of named sort of named characters, if you like. Luke saying Mythic Games are collaborating with Privateer Press for the Monpok, which is a bit odd. Yeah, honestly, mate, I can hear alarm bells kind of ringing and stuff, and red flags kind of all over the place. It might be I might be completely off the mark, but I know for one thing I personally wouldn't be spending a penny in that direction. And I appreciate with GameFound stuff, mate, it might not be it's different when it comes to kind of crowdfunding stuff, but yeah, there's just, it feels wrong for me. It feels wrong. So yeah, The Extraordinary Gentleman with Sean Connery. Yes, that's the one, mate. And Christian sharing the link for the OG t-shirts and hoodies. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, if anybody is wanting a nice hoodie for the winter, starting to get cold nights in now. If you want something a little bit warmer than a t-shirt, the hoodies I can vouch for the quality. So I think what we'll do now then is, if I go back to next one on my list here, if I go to here. And I think we'll talk about this one, because this one was kind of come a little bit out of left field, this one. Let me just get back to my notes as well on my phone. So this one, I noticed last week, I got an email about this one. And this one is Project Z, or Project Z, the zombie miniatures game by Warlord Games. And it's kind of been talked about as if it's kind of, not that it's new, but that it's a kind of like a reprint and stuff like that. Now, I did a bit of digging on this one, and initially it was released in April 2016. And essentially what happened was it was a set of rules, and they used the Wargame Factory minis, which they didn't own, but Wargame Factory was kind of like, they made some kind of miniature, sort of like zombies and survivors, apocalypse survivor type minis that they used for this game. Now, what's happened since 2016 is I think Warlord actually own Wargame Factory now as well. So they've re-released this game, however, with caution. I'll come on to this one in a little bit. And essentially, this game it's a skirmish war game for 1 to 3 players. So you can play this solo. You take control of common survivors and street gangers trying to survive the environment as an ever-growing horde of zombies. And an ever-growing horde of zombies. So think Walking Dead All-Out War from Mantic. I think it's a little bit easier, a little bit more kind of like sort of simplified rules and stuff, I think. Fast and easy to learn game mechanics, specially designed dice and cards. You'll start playing your first game in a matter of minutes, and it's basically seeing how it's scenario driven. Now, it's saying here, whilst Project Z is perfectly fine as standalone one-off affair, the game really comes to life as a series of narrative-based campaigns. So there is, I think through the rule book, there's a number of stories that you can basically play through, much in the same way that you can with The Walking Dead from Mantic as well. Now, this is the bit that really kind of stood out to me here. It says, backed by popular demand, keen gamers may recall Project Z originally launched in 2016, as I just mentioned. Although the game mechanically remains unchanged, the rules have been updated for clarity and consistency, so they have tidied it up a little bit. This re-release has an extremely limited print run and will not be made available again when sold out. Now that to me, when we're talking about alarm bells and stuff, that to me makes me feel like they've got a load of these kind of zombie survivor sort of models and stuff that they need to shift. They've got some stocks of them, and what better way to get rid of them than to do a kind of a reprint of the box set as well. So kind of forgive me for feeling a little bit kind of sort of wary about this type of stuff. If you just want to buy the box and you want to just kind of play the game, great. Buy it, pick it up. It's not a bad price. You'll get some gameplay out of it, and you'll get some value for money. I think the worry is it's going to be very difficult to go back and buy any extra stuff in the future. You'll have to kind of shop around for your minis and stuff, unless you want to buy like kind of sort of these specific type ones. Now, there is a starter set, which is basically this one here. That'll come up here. So in this starter set, you get like a kind of like a biter gang and some kind of humans. You get quite a few zombies. You get some sort of your rule book, your kind of scenario book type thing, some cards and some tokens. So you get quite a lot of stuff in the book. However, if I go, I'll tell you what, let me go back to the Warlord store. Let me go to the web store. Here it is. Pre-order now. They do all of these different kind of bundles. Now, there's a bundle here for £200, which it says Ultimate Bundle. So let's take a look at the Ultimate Bundle. And inside this Ultimate Bundle, There's a biker gang, a zombie horde. There's male survivors. There's female survivors. There's these zombies. There's cars. There's this spec ops team as well. There's a hell of a lot of stuff in there, and I do wonder if sort of if you don't pick this up now, is this something that you could kind of pick up, say, oh, I quite like that, but then never be able to pick them up again? It's a bit of a weird one. So yeah, if it's something that you maybe picked up before and you want to buy a few extra bits for it, this might not be a bad way to kind of pick them up. You can see here that the models are 28mm. It says plastic metal. No idea if they're plastic or metal, unless I'm assuming it's a mixture of stuff. If I go to Project Z and go to the start a game, I think there's some sprues in here. There you can see. So I think they are plastic. In models in these starter boxes. I can't say the same for the expansions and stuff, whether these are sort of metal or plastic or whatever. We'll see if we can have a little look and just to check, so people are at least kind of informed. Let's go to the biker gangs in the starter box. Let's go to the spec ops one and have a look at them and see if it tells you anywhere. Plastic, yeah. So I'm assuming maybe they are plastic then. It looks like they're plastic. I don't know why it said plastic metal on the starter box thing. But yeah, so again, it's kind of it's if you're looking for a solo sort of zombie game, if maybe for whatever reason Walking Dead's not really your thing and you want to try something else, price wise, you're getting quite a bit for your money, I suppose. What was it, £56 for that starter box? There's quite a lot of minis in there. What's that? 1, 2. Does it tell you anywhere here how many's in it? You get 10 plastic survivors, 6 plastic bike gangers, or 4 bike gangers and 2 bikers. You get 23 plastic zombies. So what's that? You get like 33, about 43 minis in there, something like that. So yeah, you're getting quite a bit in there for your money if you're looking for some kind of humans in there and zombies. So yes, let's see what the chat is about this one. Let's have a little look. Luke's saying, I've always looked at longing with Monpok. It always seemed very expensive and nobody seemed to talk about it. To be honest, mate, Monpok was one of those things that hardly anybody stocked in the UK. I don't know why, but I never heard anybody talk about it. I never saw anybody play it like locally or even like online. And I never really saw anywhere stocking it, which is so I don't know whether it's a great game or a terrible game. I've got no idea about it. I don't even know what it's about, if I'm honest. Rob says, didn't the last Monpok get released without a Kickstarter? To be honest, mate, everything that Privateer Press did up until Warcaster recently all launched just ordinarily, just kind of they would just made them and launched them as a normal release. It's only recently they've started going to Kickstarter, and I guess it's more just about sort of why take the risk, I suppose. VG says Monpok has a pretty extensive mini line and player base, so I don't think it's going anywhere. Yes, some retail will be a bit annoyed about the Kickstarter, so they have to watch how much they use this avenue. I think the problem is, I think it might be different locations, because you're saying about how it's kind of like an extensive mini line and player base. I've never seen it in a store in the UK. In all the different stores I've been to, whether it's been Element or whether I've been sort of like down south anywhere, certainly none of the kind of like northeast ones anywhere, I don't even see it like on like websites for sale in the UK stores. So I think it might depend upon different regions. Like it might be huge in the US as Privateer Press or a US company. It might even be big in Australia, because maybe Australians get some decent deliveries from Privateer Press. I've no idea, mate, but it's just not a game that even kind of rings any bells for me. Luke says Project Z just got beaten to death by Walking Dead, or that is the impression I got at least. I think it was more a case of it was just there's a rule set, and then a company made some miniatures and Warlord tried to pull it all together. I heard some good things about it. Somebody I remember telling me about how Project Z, like, pick it up when it's on offer, it's a great game kind of thing. But I've never played it. I found it weird how they're making a bit of a song and dance about it, how it's come back. But basically, it's kind of it's a one print run and done kind of thing. It's not something you want to invest in to try and pick up local players kind of thing. You're going to be buying it like a board game type thing, really. Peter says, yeah, I used to be interested in this one. Then Walking Dead came out and never looked back. Yeah. Luke's in warehouse clearance dressed up as a box set. Yeah, that's kind of how I see it, really. Yeah, Russell Higgins is saying going to pass, no FOMO here. John saying big no from me. A game which is guaranteed not to be supported. Yeah, this is what I thought, really, and I only saw that wording today. It wasn't really kind of front and center when I saw their adverts on YouTube or in the email and stuff that I got. It wasn't until I saw it on the website. So it's a strange one. Like I say, if you like to play, if you're playing games like Last Days, like Ash Barker's game, it might be a great way to get some kind of sort of cheap plastic minis. If you just wanting to buy it like a board game and just play it, it sounds like it's pretty straightforward to play. Maybe for whatever reason you think sort of Walking Dead's a little bit more complicated. I don't know why you'd think that, but maybe you do. It feels like they've got a lot of minis that they need to shift. Let's have a little look here. Peter said it's a motorcycle club, not a gang. Yeah, apparently. Now this, I think I'll pass on. Just get Walking Dead. Yeah, it was a weird one. I thought I'd kind of flag it over. This is one of them things where when I talk about things that's in the news, games that's coming out, it doesn't necessarily always have to be stuff that I'm interested in. Like if I read about something, it might be something that somebody else is interested in. But this one, I thought it was worth flagging in case people didn't see that little line about basically it's one and done, and we won't be printing any more of this again. Peter saying, we'll have to be good to be better than Walking Dead. And Phil saying, yeah, evening folks, hello. Russell says, Zombicide's about the only zombie game I can handle. It's mindless, just like zombies. I've never played Zombicide, mate. But to be fair, because I really enjoyed Walking Dead, I never really felt the need to kind of go and find another zombie game, really. It ticked all the boxes for me. Win saying limited run sets worry me. Yeah, me too, mate. If I don't buy the lot straight away, I might not be able to get the rest later. Fancy a zombie game and looking at Walking Dead. I would always recommend Walking Dead personally. I'm a big fan of the game. I still play it now, and I pledged a Kickstarter, so I had a hell of a lot of stuff sort of get delivered for that, and I've never felt the need to kind of go out and buy more for it, really. But yeah, I like the Walking Dead mechanics. VJ saying it's a great game, easily the best kaiju type game around. Very cool rules and minis. Yeah, I'm like I said, I don't know anything about it. I'm not criticizing it as a game. I'm not criticizing the minis. I must admit, I don't even think I've ever seen any minis for it. It's just one of those games that you just don't see it anywhere. It's in the UK. Moose, good morning, mate. How are you doing? Peter says, I saw a gameplay video once of Project Z and it was just running out of bullets all the time. I must admit, I did try to watch a couple of videos about it today while I was having a coffee, just to try and kind of be a little bit more pre-warned, but they weren't the most interesting ones, so I turned them off, if I'm honest. And Vijay said, I'm more talking about the online community. Yeah, again, mate, I think it must be just like one of those things where you're either in and involved in it or you don't know it exists. I think like Infinity's probably one of them games, really. I don't like Weird. I think even Malifaux and stuff are games like that as well, where unless you're involved in those communities, you probably just don't even know they exist. John said, I'd never even heard of Monpok. I had to Google it to see what it was. Yeah, Monster Apocalypse, mate. Tony Owl says, not much to see on this one. Only zombie game I bought was Zombicide, Night of the Living Dead, just for the Romero mode and the potential to play with the other half in the future. Nice one. Did you ever get to play a game of it yet, mate? Have you painted any of this stuff up yet, or was it just like a nice little collector's thing? Where was that one again? Andrew saying probably Privateer Press's inability to get product over to Europe. Potentially, mate. I mean, they've had a big clear out. Well, let me rephrase that. It's not a clear out. A lot of their staff have left over the last couple of years. If you think like basically all of them, or pretty much all of Atomic Mass Games are ex-Privateer Press folks. The guy that basically owns the company that is doing the what's it called again? The Duncan Rhodes paint stuff. The guy that owns that company that's doing all the Duncan Rhodes paint used to be basically CEO of Privateer Press. So he left and started up this company as well. There's a lot of they've had a lot of sort of change in their staff, and I don't know if that's linked to the state of their business, the state of their gaming systems. I don't know whether it's just people have had better opportunities or whatever it is, but there just feels like there's a lot of kind of red flags for me at the minute without any real kind of sort of facts to back anything up. Just how it feels to me personally. Vijay, I'm not keen on zombie games. Tiny epic zombies scratches that itch. I like kind of like zombie films and horror films and all that kind of stuff. I loved the Walking Dead comics when I was younger. So I just like that. That's kind of like my bag as well. Rob says OG Monpok was an awesome game. Loved the pre-painted minis. Did it come with pre-painted stuff? I didn't know that. Russell says PP is struggling in America. I don't think they're doing great guns in the UK either, mate, to be fair. Bliss says if I can't find it cheap on Amazon, I can always use a few more zombies. Regis is not a fan of pre-paints, but different strokes. I think it depends on the quality of the pre-paints, mate. Like if you think about like X-Wing stuff and that, they were fantastic, but I've got no idea, or they still are fantastic, but I've got no idea what the Monpok stuff was. Russell says they pulled their press ganger program and people stopped playing. I think the problem with the press ganger program, mate, was it was to do with a legal thing where it was different in the UK as it was in America. Essentially, in America, if you were classed as a volunteer who helped the company out, you were classed as an employee. Therefore, you were entitled to certain kind of conditions. Where in the rest of the world, like when anybody else basically had a volunteer who would go to like a con or something like that and help out, they were just a volunteer. And it got really it got a bit messy. I think it all happened. There was a lot of stuff with, was it the coast, I think, where it all started with. But then I think a few things happened with Privateer Press as well. So I think that's why they pulled it, mate, to be honest. Peter says, in all honesty, lots of these types of one-off box games on Warlord Games site. I love the company, but I think they're just too small to support more games. I think the problem is, mate, and it's nothing against Warlord. I think it's, and to be honest, when I'd actually put this on the list to talk about tonight, I hadn't realised it was going to be a one and done. I found that out later on today. I think they basically they buy up or they pick up a lot of smaller kind of like miniatures manufacturers, and I think some of these games end up kind of coming along from them. Tasty Brain says, for what he understands, Monpok used to have a good player base in the States, but their base shrank. Yeah, I don't know anything about it to kind of comment on the game, whether it's good or bad, to be honest. I don't know whether it's grown, whether it's kind of shrinking or what. Tiberius says, I forget it even happens, to be honest. I went looking for a few years ago on their site, couldn't find it, and then decided I dreamt it. Tony says, I'm just in it for the collection at the minute, the zombie side, yeah, but I would paint up the characters as I got hold of colorized version of the film. Ah, nice one, mate. Jill says, I only need one zombie game, and even Walking Dead is in the pile to go. Stick with zombie side for minis and Dead of Winter for board game. Warlord rule set are usually pretty fun, though. Yeah, I think there's a guy called... Is it Richard Fortin, I think, wrote the rules for this? Who I think he might even be in our Facebook group as well. So there you go. Christian, sharing the link there for BlackJack merch as well. Thank you very much, buddy. Right, what's next on the list? We've got some other stuff to talk about as well. I'm going to kind of dive in with this one. So for those of you who are into your Drowned Earth by Olmec Games, they've announced there is a winter campaign coming up in the winter, funnily enough, and it says Raiders of the Thousand Isles. So I'll read you the bit of fluff here. After their victory in the tech rush near Drafter's Tingle, the bondsmen used their newly gained influence and put their stamp on the town. Not everyone likes this, and there are rumours about the jungle itself rising up in anger. Join us on another journey to the area of Drafter's Tingle. Experience a campaign where your choices and results influence the ongoing story and shape this part of Alaya. This journey will start in December 2021. So if the Drowned Earth is a game that you kind of play sometimes, if it's a game that you fancied getting into, you can get involved in their winter campaign. And it's saying you can already start to participate. You can come up with a special place in the town of Drafter's Tingle, a character, a non-player character that lives there, or describe a jungle tribe from that area, and the best entries will be placed into the campaign. So you name basically persons, places, or tribes. And that basically the final day for submissions is Sunday, October the 31st. Again, the Drowned Earth is another great, fantastic skirmish game. Has a really unique setting. Big fan of the models of this as well. Love the background kind of story of this. And I think I've just heard on the grapevine as well, there's potentially an RPG coming as well, set in this world. And it's just something worth checking out. This is the game, if you're not familiar, I did some painting of this stuff on stream. It's the ones where we had the elephant with the real gun, and the big gorilla and the dinosaurs and that kind of stuff. It's just got some really unique miniatures and some unique aesthetics in this, and the game works really well with a kind of like a, if you like Infinity's kind of dice rolling system, I think you'll be a fan of this one as well. So yeah, if you're into Drowned Earth, it's worth checking out the winter campaign that is coming up soon. Let's see where else we are. Luke says, speaking of Duncan Rhodes paint set on Kickstarter, is anyone backing it? No, I haven't backed it, mate. To be honest, there was a bit of chat online about it because people were saying, why has nobody been sent any samples of it? Why has nobody got to see the paint yet? Like, it's obviously on Kickstarter, it's funded, but nobody's physically got their hands on any to have independent or unbiased reviews. And apparently the excuse or the reason that was given on the Kickstarter was they'd asked people if they wanted it, but only one person replied. Now, I know for a fact that this is wrong because I ended up getting into a conversation on Twitter with a number of different content creators, and I was one of them who got that email about would you like to try this stuff? We've got some samples in. Unfortunately, we don't have as many samples as we do people interested, is what the email said. But if we can send you some, would you like to take a look at the paint? And I said, absolutely, I would love to take a look at the paints. So there was at least myself. Kirioth was another one who said they wanted to have a look at it. I think who's the other one? Sonic Sledgehammer said he replied as well, saying he wanted to have a look at it. So there was at least kind of like a few of us who said we'd all got these emails and we'd all replied yes, and then not heard anything else. So there was a bit of kind of like a bit of chatter online about that. So I'm not saying that they're bad paints, and I'm not saying that if you've backed them you're going to be disappointed or anything like that. I've got no idea what they're like. But for me personally, like, I just didn't feel the need to back a full new paint line that I've never tried, and I didn't know anything about it. It's one of those things I'll happily pick up a couple if I see them in a store in the future and see what they're like. But buying a full paint range blindly without really seeing them or without hearing anybody sort of having tried them and seeing what they think of them, I just think it's a bit weird that they're selling on the back of Duncan's name. So I hope they're good. That's all I can say. VG saying understandable to John there. Yeah, last thing I need is more paint. Jill says, tingle, how you make your world sound less serious in a simple word. It did say tingle, didn't it? Drafters tingle. John says, Drafters tingle sounds like something you get the morning after heavy night on the hill. Tasty Brain Drain says, RPG. Did someone say RPG? Yes, mate. I think there's been talk of a potential RPG being set in the world of the Drowned Earth. He said, yeah, seriously, I think the RPG set in the Drowned Earth would be really cool. Yeah, it definitely will be. It's got a fantastic universe around it. Tiberi says, when a company bullshits over something like that, something is going on. Yeah, I don't want to kind of like, I'm not raising any kind of flags or anything. I'm just telling it like it is. There's a comment on the Kickstarter basically saying that they'd reached out and basically only one person replied. And however, that's not factually true unless all of our emails all got lost in the post, if you like. Luke's saying ting 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 as an alarm bell. I had a look, yeah, but I was not going to spend that on paint. It's just a weird one. There's so many kind of paint ranges out there that why take a risk on a new paint line when I can go and buy Vallejo, I can buy GW, I can buy Army Painter, I can buy any of the different paint lines that are out there really and try them, unless this is either half the price or has some kind of like magic ingredient. For me, it's personally not. It's not really worth the risk, really. Tyler Peck, good evening, mate. How are you doing? He says, hope everyone is well. I hope everyone's well too. Johnson, I think it's more charming for names like Drafters Tingle. Busey says, when's the BlackJack Legacy paint range coming out? I might be interested. Hand grinded pigments. I wouldn't. I don't think I'd bother with that kind of stuff. I mean, I get it because Duncan Rhodes is a painter and he's got a paint channel, and I guess that kind of thing works. It's the same like when channels bring out like sort of their own range of brushes and stuff like that. But it's not like the world is crying out for a different kind of paint. Like, I can't imagine that there is this kind of secret formula of magic paint that either GW or Army Painter or Vallejo haven't like kind of found that is suddenly going to kind of change the industry. For me, it just feels like it's kind of it's good branding. They might be making fantastic paint. It might be the best paint that's out there in the market, but I've got no idea because nobody's told me about it. I've not seen any examples of it. I don't even think I've seen anything painted with it, to be fair. Yeah, Luke's is with paint. I know what I like, and I like what I know. Yeah, I'm the same, mate. People keep telling me to change my paint ranges and stuff like that. And it's like, I know what I'm getting. I know what my color. I know when I paint something, I know what color it's going to come out. I know how to thin it to the right consistency for my airbrush or for my brushes. I like what I like, basically. John says they're more expensive than Vallejo, even in Kickstarter. Sight unseen, I'm not doing that. I must admit, mate, I didn't really look at the prices and compare them. I had no idea how much they are. But it's a bit of a strange one to, even at Kickstarter, to be more expensive than your sort of well-established competitors. Tiberius says, I'm a paint tart. I'll buy a couple of colours. Yeah, but I'd probably buy a couple to try them, like if I saw them in a shop. But I wouldn't be like backing them at Kickstarter, I don't think. Jill says, sound like they forgot to check their spam box. I reckon it's just P3 rebottled. Naming conventions are tired too. There is obviously links with P3. And I had heard somewhere that P3 paints were essentially the coat d'arms paints as well. I'm not sure how far that's true, but their wording, their marketing says that these are brand new formulated paints. They haven't just bought something off a shelf. So I have no idea. I can't really comment on them. Busey saying, where are these paints made? I don't think it actually said mate, to be fair. Peter Tuff says, speaking of paints, did you see the teaser from Army Painter? Looks like their take on contrast paints. Army Painter are pretty they're pretty good. I don't want this to sound bad, but they're pretty good at basically taking other people's development work and basically just kind of copying it. They did a similar thing with their makeup brush, basically things like their dry brushes. They kind of like copied up. I think it was Artis Opus basically had the first ones on the market, and then Army Painter basically just did some cheaper versions and just copied them. And then you had like Redgrass Games did their nice little wet palettes, and then Army Painter came along with a cheaper version. I guess that's like maybe that's just the way they do stuff, or certainly that's the impression of how I think they do stuff. Tony Sidney tends to use Green Stuff World, Army Painter, Vallejo, Tamiya, Revel, and an ever decreasing selection of GW. Yeah, if you're a painter, mate, if your hobby is just painting, I can imagine you got paints from 25 different companies. For me, painting is relaxing and it's a means to an end, and for me, it's just as long as I can pick them up when I need them, that's all I need, really. Andrew says, Duncan paint formula. Take GW paint, move it to drop bottle, and then spit in the bottle. It works magically as two thin coats. John said, I love those dry brushes. Yeah, I must admit the dry brushes are pretty good. I mean, they are just kind of makeup brushes, but they are pretty good. Tiberius says, but new formula could just mean different codes for the colours. It could mean anything, mate. Like I say, I've got no idea. I'm being careful not to slander something without actually having any facts, basically. And John saying, love that wet palette too. Yeah, I love the wet palette, mate. I use that one as well. Jill says, Army Painter also announced that they're going to include ball bearings. Are they really? Because I remember seeing something where they sell ball bearings. So I'd be surprised if they're ever going to put them in. The Solo Wargaming Show says, we call that reverse engineering. Yeah, that's a polite way of putting it. Jill saying they're going to put them in every paint going forward. They should have always had them in every paint. Of all the paints that are out there on the market, their paint is the one that needs to be sort of agitated and shaken up the most, to be fair. So yeah, I'm not surprised that they do. Tiberius is saying MIG put ball bearings in. I've had some kind of samples of paint sent to me over time came in like sort of, like some of those little like sort of surprise box things that you get. I'm trying to think who it might have been MIG paints. It was something Star as well, something Star paints. I forget what they're called now. They had agitators in as well. Blizzard saying, I like Army Painter washers. I've never tried the washers, mate. The paints I find need a lot of work to get the consistency mixed up. I've never tried their washers, to be fair. And yeah, Jill's saying their paint's desperately needed, and they've always said that. I just can't believe it's taken that long, to be honest. John saying he's got a Vortex shaker and it's awesome. Yeah, I love them. Instar, that's the ones, Jill. Yeah, I think they come with an agitator in as well. Andrew says, GW contrast paints desperately need ball bearings. I've not really found that. I have got a Vortex shaker as well, to be fair minded, and I haven't found that being an issue with them. Phil Campbell says it's not a ball bearing, it's an activator. Well, it probably isn't a ball bearing. It's probably something a lot cheaper and a lot less rustable, shall we say. Army painter washers are brilliant. I've heard they're good. I should probably try them at some point, to be fair. Peter says he's waffling SS squad's done. Time to hit it up in 6 for work. Good night, mate. Take care. Luke says, I tried the Army Painter dip once, never again. I ended up repainting the garden bench with it. I've used the Army Painter dip and actually found it all right for what it is, but I wouldn't be putting anything kind of I was too worried about in it. Jill says, I bought a soft tone wash and it stank, ruined the models. I think they can kind of like go off and stuff, can't they? Right, let's crack on to something else as well that I wanted to talk about. So, this one is, if I can remember which button I'm pressing, that's the fella. So this one is about Warhammer Underworlds. Now I must admit, I saw there was a new version coming out, like a new season, that it was announced at Gen Con. I'm not really I haven't been keeping up to speed with Warhammer Underworlds, but my sort of 2-minute review would be, I really enjoyed playing Shadespire Warhammer Underworlds, the original season. I really enjoyed it. I just don't like deck building, and that's a personal thing to me. And then when they started to change some of the packs, so they came with like a pre-built deck, for me that was like, oh well, it's kind of cool. Like if you want to play it casually, I think at least they're kind of catering for that, but it's still a very competitive game at heart. Now what they're doing is they're talking about this new Rivals format, and it says it opens Warhammer Underworld up for everyone. And they got this little video basically. I'll kind of play this one. It's only on for a minute. So essentially what they're saying is with this new Rivals format is it is the simplest way to get into Warhammer Underworlds, and it is essentially pre-built decks that if you play a Rivals format tournament, for example, everybody has the same decks for those particular, or everybody has, should we say, balanced decks, but they're not kind of, people haven't built them, it doesn't matter kind of, as it says, they're all players are equal. It doesn't matter if you've kind of like been buying this for 3 seasons and you've got hundreds of different cards to choose from and you're really well versed on deck building. This is basically getting a pre-built deck, and basically if you play a Rivals format tournament, basically everybody is kind of starting from a bit of a level playing field. I mean, there's some really nice models in this set. I like the aesthetic of this set as well. The fact that it's kind of set underwater and stuff. I like the blue backgrounds. Some of the Beastgrave ones looked a bit too dark and a bit brown, and the board was kind of like lost a little bit. But I do like this the colorways of this one. So what it's saying is, and this is the bit I don't fully understand, so maybe somebody in the chat might be able to help me with this one. So it's saying that in Warhammer Underworlds, both players must cleverly and carefully use decks of cards to boost their warband to win a game. You have 12 objective cards to achieve and 20 power cards, ploys, magic spells, and upgrades. And this is what you always did. You basically you built those decks up with some universal cards and some faction-specific cards. It says you've been able, encouraged to build the ultimate deck from an ever-growing pool of cards. While this is great fun and all part of the experience, with years of cards now available, it can be tricky to know where to start for new players who don't have access to the full card library. And that has always been the thing when it comes to card-based games. That is always an issue. It's one of the reasons why they do these kind of seasons where basically right now Season 1's no longer in use. The new Season 4, you can use Seasons 2, 3 and 4, and when Season 5 comes along, right now you can't use Season 1 and 2 cards, you can only use Seasons 3, 4 and 5 kind of thing. It's one of the reasons why they do that. Rivals has been designed to be super simple for anyone and everyone to get into. It works like this. Each player gets a pre-built deck. Now when I first read this, I assumed this pre-built deck came in the box with the warband that you buy, and I'm not so sure that's the case now. As I'll read on. It says either by selecting the warband specific cards for a particular warband, or by picking one of the pre-built decks such as Silent Menace, which you can even combine with older warbands from the first few seasons of Warhammer Underworld Online. So it looks like you can pick the cards from the packs, basically like the faction specific cards, or they're going to now have these new pre-built packs, which can be used for any faction by the sound of it. You won't have to build a deck, and because both sides now have a deck of equal power, the game will be decided by skill rather than the size of your card collection. All you need to do now is choose your favourite warband and you're ready to go. That's no easy decision, but don't worry, we've got a guide to finding the warband that's best for you coming up later this week. And fans of deck building shouldn't worry, the championship format is still very much at the forefront of Harrowdeep, and the new Grand Alliance specific card sets will be even greater flexibility. So it continues basically as normal, but it sounds like you can now buy these sort of pre-built card packs now, which can be used with any faction. Universal decks, which suggests that. So yeah, I'm not sure if I think this is a good idea or a bad idea. I liked it when they basically came with a pre-built deck that you could just use out of the box. I quite like that. I thought that was a good way to get into it. This just feels like another way to sell more cards. And everybody's going to have basically the same cards, which in a weird way is going to mean everybody's got similar, not similar abilities so much, because a lot of their abilities are actually on your cards, on your kind of on the player cards, if you like. So if there's anybody in the chat who knows a bit more than this than I do, please enlighten me. But I think I'm right in thinking that basically the pre-built decks that they're talking about here in Rivals are essentially an extra card deck that you need to buy. So let's have a little look here and see what we're doing here. John saying, Mick, call it a stirring ball, but the paint is really thin. Beauty, I've got a Vortex mixer, but a BlackJack merch branded Vortex would be better. Tony says, don't go for the glass ones, they're lacking in the heft. Yeah, I've always used hematite beads, so they work really well. Tiberius says, army painter washes are more like the original Badder Black. I think that's before my time. I remember the sort of Devil in Mud, but I wasn't painting a lot before they all changed them, I think. Marco says, I strongly recommend Pro Acryl. They are perfection. Maybe if you're a painter like you, made for me, any old crap will do, basically. Hello, Marco, by the way. Dan Kennedy says, I heard a lot of good things about the Pro Acryl stuff. Jill says, I like the idea behind this box. Then they put birds in the underwater combat box. I don't know why. That was what broke my suspension of disbelief, but here we are. I haven't even noticed that bit yet. Dan says, I have enough paints for now though, so I'll wait until some run out. I'm really liking the scale 75 ones. I hear people kind of like talking about Pro Acryl and scale 75, and they tend to be the people who are better painters who use them, and I don't know if that's, and please don't take this the wrong way, folks, I don't know if that's like a snobbish thing, as in like I'm a good painter, I'm ready for better paints now kind of thing. I don't know what's different about them. So yeah, maybe I'll try them at some point. Brad P says, I think you either have to choose the pre-made deck for the faction or one of a very few universal decks. So if your faction deck is bad, you are likely in trouble if the universal does not match well. And Andrew is saying it will be fine, but you're trusting GW to balance a format. I think the way they're saying about balancing it out is by everybody has the same universal deck. So it's essentially like saying we're going to balance Warhammer 40k by everybody has access to exactly the same list kind of thing. Beauty saying sounds great for beginners, and it does kind of sound good for beginners, but then is that not what you always got? So certainly from, I think it was from Beastgrave onwards, your warband came with cards that you could just use out of the box, and I thought that's what you already kind of had. Dan says GW and balance aren't particularly two ways that go together. Beauty says actually sounds more confusing than the original format of pre-built decks in the box. This is my point, mate. I thought they'd essentially brought something in which was kind of like, we've now got this new format called Rivals, which basically is for people that don't like doing deck building. And I thought, well, that sounds fantastic when I first read it. And then the more I read it, it was like, hang on a second, so you've still got to buy more cards. Budgie smugglers. Tyler Peck says, crab team from Diachasm should have been saved for Harrowdeep. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Greg Cherry, hello mate. He says, as for Two Thin Coats Kickstarter, the bottles got down to $2.50 with bigger pledge. I took the gamble on his name and reputation. Yeah, I mean, plenty of people did make it funded really quickly, and that's fair enough. I've got no qualms with that. It just seems weird that basically, like, I don't know how can it be that much different, and I find it weird that nobody's had their hands on them. Vijay says, I was right into the first 2 seasons of Underworlds. totally lost interest now. Community is way too competitive. Full of people whose highest life achievement is boring news. Yeah, and I think that tends to be what happens. The game was always designed to be competitive, let's be fair. And I think the longer the seasons went on, the more seasons that were available, that anybody, it's a bit like X-Wing. People that have been around for a long time have spent a lot of money and they've got a lot of cards and they know the game inside out kind of thing. I like this idea of basically just having a format that was just using, in my head, the cards that came in the box, if you like. So that it was kind of balanced in that respect. But this sounds like it's something different. This sounds like it's basically, we're going to have that format, but if you want to play that format, you've got to buy these cards. So the cards that come in the box are almost irrelevant in that respect. Camo, good morning to you. How are you doing? So yeah, so that was a bit more news as well. That was kind of like in my head this week, and I was like, oh, I'm not really sure what that's about. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of just touch on for those, that one, for those folks that are looking forward to Dead Zone 3.0 coming along very, very soon. If you go to the Mantic blog, if you Google Mantic blog, you'll find this, or manticgames.com. You can filter this by Dead Zone by clicking the little Dead Zone tab there, and then this will show you all of the stuff that they've been talking about. To do with Dead Zone 3.0. There's a lot of blog stuff that's been coming in here since the initial announcement. So if we go back to all the way back to the 13th of September about why 3rd edition is the best one, and then basically there's things here about creating your strike team, how to create it. There's some information about here about line of sight and what the changes mean. There's some things about how they streamline the keywords. They've got some information here about the new units and the minis. Some more information about the actual lore and the background of the game. Some stuff in here about cleaning up the damage. What the heck's that about? Let's have a look. I've got no idea what clean up the damage. It's about actually on calculating damage. So basically shows you about shooting and how damage works and that kind of stuff. And then if we go back to the other blogs as well, we've basically got how the campaigns work. There's some information about it. So what the Mantic staff have now started to do as well, they've started to do their own, starting to paint their own kind of like strike teams ready for the game coming, 3rd edition. So these are Martin Thurwell stuff. I'm always a fan of Martin's painting stuff. But yeah, he's been doing some fantastic stuff with his, what are these called again? I've forgotten the names of them now. He says scanning all the, what were they called? The name was at the top, wasn't it? There it was. He's Asterians. I couldn't remember the name there. My mind went blank. Yeah, so Martin's been painting up some rather awesome Asterians here. And then I think Rob's been doing his stuff as well. So Rob's got his Mason Labs. And they look pretty special as well. Looking very nice. He's done some cracking work on those. So it gives you a little bit of an idea about some kind of like sort of faction sizes and that type of stuff. We've then got Dave's been doing his Asterians as well. So you can see what he's been doing. Looking pretty cool. And then we've also got Nick's Veerman as well. It says he's joined as a web store manager earlier this year, so he's not, maybe not a name that you necessarily know very well. But yeah, he's been showing a little bit of the work he's been doing and how he's been doing those. And then we've also got some of Johnny's Marauders as well. So it's nice to kind of see. I love that miniature is cool. I like that. So yeah, it's just kind of like showing some of this the stuff that he's been working on. So if you are interested in Dead Zone 3.0, please do go and check out Mantic's blog. I know that I think Andy Sharp from Way to Fire has managed to get his hands on one of the 2-player starter sets already, and I think Tyler as well might have done one as well for Dreadpath Zone. I think he might have one as well if I remember right. I could be wrong on that though. But yeah, there's a few people managed to get their hands on an early set of Dead Zone 3.0. I think it was the other one as well. Black Dragon Miniatures, the store, they had one as well randomly. So yeah, so there's some unboxings out there online if you want to see what's in the box. Still time to pre-order yours. Remember as well, if you do shop through my Goblin Gaming affiliate link and you pick up Dead Zone 3.0, you will get 20% discount on it, and I also make a small commission, which helps keep the lights on for this channel as well. So, moosh or appreciated. Let's have a little look here. Aaron Walker saying, love the minis for Underworlds. Not a deck builder fan, so never played the game. Yeah, I'm not a deck builder fan either, mate, to be fair. But yeah, the game was pretty fun. Vijay says, the Agents of Sigmar guys do still keep the fun in Underworlds. They do, mate, but I get the impression that they're getting a little bit tired of it now as well. I see them branching out into a number of different things. I think they're looking for something else to keep their own interest now, I think. Yeah, Busey's saying, yeah, too much rivalry. John says, $1.2 million is not to be sniffed at. That's more paint than I've got tucked away. I tell you what, you don't necessarily need to release it to retail when you've just made that much money off the back of it. Tom says, you just jumped in. Do we have any solid info on Wild West Exodus 3? The current version could use some work. I had an NPE with having a mix of bad cards and bad dice for me and great rolls for my opponent. You can't do much with the dice, unfortunately, mate. But I don't think the game for 3rd edition is changing massively. I think it's essentially a bit of a tidy up. It's changing some, like, sort of putting some of the errata into the finished rulebook again. Because if you remember the rulebook that came out with the Red Oak starter set, like, it bears no resemblance basically to what the online rulebook's like now. So I think it's almost like, yes, it's classed as 3rd edition, but I think it's just a tidy up really of everything. I don't think it's a massive sort of move away from where the rules are now. Tony saying Dead Zone 3 has been a nice success story and it's interesting to see. I think we'll see, mate, when it releases. I think it's I would have liked to have seen more more information online, if I'm honest. I would have liked to have seen kind of sort of a little bit more about the rules and stuff like that, and maybe some more reviews and bits and pieces. I appreciate people haven't got them yet, and it's still on pre-order. It's not out till later this month, but it would have been nice to see some more stuff, I think. Vijay's saying, yeah, so keen for Dead Zone 3. Painting up the terrain has got the juices going. I've actually got my Dead Zone terrain over. In fact, let me just grab one of the... I'm just kind of working on it a little bit in the background. So, what I've been doing is I decided with the new kind of theme of Dead Zone being more kind of like less ruined necessarily and more almost like set in kind of like a bit of a cyberpunk city thing. I thought I'd put a bit more colour into my terrain. So this is kind of some of the stuff I've been putting a little bit of colour into it. It needs a bit of weathering into it as well. Like this is obviously just the first stages. It needs like the pink needs highlighting a little bit and stuff. But yeah, it needs a bit of weathering putting in. And obviously the bits of rebar and stuff need paint and silver and stuff. But it's getting there. I'm getting ready for when number 3 drops. So at least I'll have some terrain ready to go. Where are we up to here? Let's have a look. Brad Pieces, I've been trying to get a channel to do a deep dive on the starter for beginners, how to build a terrain list for the models in the box, stuff like that. Dead Zone podcast has one. Yeah, that's I thought it did, mate. Yeah, to be honest, if I had one, my plan wasn't to do an unboxing or anything like that, because essentially everybody kind of knows how to do it. But the thing I did for the for Warcry about how to build the kind of the terrain that comes in the starter box did really well, and I thought something similar for Dead Zone 3.0 could be good as well, but I ain't got one, so we might have to wait. But by the time I get one down the line, everybody else will have one as well, I suppose. So that it takes away that kind of like actually the benefit of like if I could tell people before they got their hands on it what's the best way to build a terrain, then that would help. It's no point me getting the terrain, finding out the best way to build it, then making a video, then putting it online, by which point everybody's already built their terrain, if you like. Dan Kennedy says, I'm looking forward to digging out my Dead Zone stuff for the 3rd now that I've got a group that want to play it. Yeah, it's nice that there seems to be a bit of local love for that, mate. Joshua Hatch says, I'm not a huge fan of the new add-ons to the terrain, but I prefer the real damaged, worn down, blown up looking tables. That said, the neon signs bode well for crossover with Infinity. Yeah, I think it's definitely, there's an aesthetic to that, mate. I quite like the new stuff, but I like it as a mix with the other stuff as well, to be fair. Luke saying, one of the things that appeals to me about Dead Zone is that there's no faction that I don't like. that's kind of almost a blessing and a curse sometimes, mate, because I always find it quite hard to. Sometimes it's nice when there's just one that stands out and I go, oh, I really like that one. The rest of them's all right as well, but I really like that one. But I must admit, I'm not. I almost want to see the rule books. I want to see what the options are. Kind of, I want to see all the bits and pieces, really. Christian sharing the link for Amazon as well. Thank you very much, mate. If anybody is shopping in the UK on the Amazon UK site, if you click through my link, it's just I get a small kind of very very small from Amazon, a very small commission just for kind of sending you their way, and it just helps. It helps you to kind of help the channel without actually having to spend any money. Josh saying, I'm looking forward to the updates to the models in Dead Zone. Now if I can just remember how I painted my first edition stuff. Yeah. Jill saying they have done very little to sell it to new players. The Mantic coverage has been aimed at people who have played it before. Hopefully once it's out, it'll sell well though. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Jill, to be honest. I think a lot of Mantic stuff tends to be aimed at veteran gamers. It's one of the reasons why I think that there is sort of very rarely any instructions inside and stuff. And I think there's an opportunity at the minute. I think people are looking for games, even sort of XGW gamers and 40k gamers and stuff like that. I think there's a bit of a change in the wind at the moment of people looking outside of just that one big game system. And I think timing wise, it's probably not too bad. It would have been nice if it was here before Kill Team, but unfortunately it's not. So it's but I think it's a great game, and I think again it's another really good 2-player starter set, and it's got everything you need for 2 players to play. The problem is it needs to be in front of people, and they need to, like, you almost need to know what you're buying. Like, I know how I feel about Games Workshop games. Well, I like to be able to kind of see a gameplay video or see somebody play it before I decide if I want to kind of sort of spend my money on it. And it's generally no different with anybody else either, unless I'm already invested in that game and I know what to expect. But then again, that's another case of sort of only advertising to the people who were already going to buy it anyway. Dan saying, it's looking cool, mate. Mine still needs building. I've got loads of terrain, mate, ready. It just all needs finishing off, basically. Again, that's another video I've got like half made about basically just how to get it done with like spray cans and get it ready quick. Jill says, looking nice. Dead Zone terrain needs something to make it pop. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, to be honest, Jill. I didn't like. I've seen some people doing like sort of like big bold colours. I like the idea of it kind of. There's a lot of terrain in Dead Zone, so I don't want it to stand out too much. I kind of want it to fade into the background a little bit, but you kind of want to pick some bits out. So that's why I thought by the time I like. Obviously, I've got. Let me just grab another couple of bits and stuff. So by the time you get a few kind of bits on the table together, so you've got like sort of these bigger pieces, and you can have sort of stuff up on the top of it and that kind of stuff, and or you've got things like this basically where you start to kind of like layer it up and then have little walkways between them and stuff. I just thought something with a little bit of colour on it would just kind of help it to pop a little bit. But yeah, all I've done basically is kind of just used spray cans to kind of get a bit of a zenithal kind of like sort of colour, a grey and white to the outside on top of a black base. And essentially what I need to do now is kind of a little bit of weathering. They're too clean at the moment. They need a little bit of kind of like sponging on there just to kind of look a bit weathered and a bit chipped and stuff. But yeah, I'm kind of happy how they're coming together. And that's kind of how I built my scenery, basically, is in these kind of modular subsections, really, and that's kind of what I wanted to kind of show, like with the new stuff. Luke said, I'm surprised you didn't get one. The reason they don't have any second edition stuff left was because of the painting challenge. It was, mate. Christian saying, time for bed. Thanks, Andy and night all. Thank you, Christian. Take care, buddy. Phil saying, just discovered Turnip 28. Somebody else just talked about that last week. Tom says, Dead Zone 3 was really needed. Unfortunately, my group have gone 100% into Kill Team 2, which is a great game. So I doubt we'll invest in Dead Zone 3. Yeah, I think that's the case, mate. I think if anybody's kind of, this is what I mean about trying to market it to people who don't already play it. Like people who play Dead Zone are going to buy this. Obviously, they're all over it. Like, they love playing Dead Zone now. Why would they not buy it? So you need to kind of do something a little bit different, and at the minute, for whatever reason, the Mantic haven't done that yet. Blitz says, on the back side of the map in Dead Zone 3 is a smaller map with all the basic rules and stats for an intro game. The original one had that as well, mate. So Dead Zone version 1, which came with a paper mat, had exactly the same thing as well. But Dead Zone 2 came with a neoprene mat. And so it didn't have that. But yeah, the original one came with that that kind of almost like demo mat, if you like, a smaller version with all of the rules on the outside of the board. Tyler says, as they would say in the NWO, that's just too sweet. Greg says, I got my first game of Legion and then $300 later I realised how bad the original models were. Enjoyed it very much more than 40k, just no pretty minis. Yeah, I must admit the original Legion stuff wasn't the best. It's a bit, to be honest, it's a bit the same with the Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff. Whilst the original core box minis are nice, the newer ones are by far better sculpts, and you can see how, as a company, Atomic Mass Games have kind of sort of come on leaps and bounds with the quality of the sculpts now. It did exactly the same thing with Star Wars Legion, yeah. VG said, did the full salt and hairspray chipping on his Dead Zone terrain, and I love how they came up. Pics in the Discord if anyone's interested. Yours looks fab, mate, yeah. Andrew says, what's the painting challenge? We haven't got one at the minute, mate. I haven't set a painting challenge off at the minute, but I did one a while ago, which was a Dead Zone painting challenge, and essentially, basically, I think we all wiped out Mantic's stock of Dead Zone stuff. Motor says, I played a game of Kill Team last week. It was really fun. Nice one, mate. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Jill says, sadly, the person with all the Dead Zone terrain moved away from me. Can't afford to buy enough. Been trying to keep an eye on eBay, but no steals yet. I think one blessing, Jill, is that the Dead Zone 3 starter box comes with much more terrain than the second edition did. Second edition, I don't know if... I'm trying to think where, like... Because I had first edition and second edition, and I don't know if I just combined it all together, or if second edition had more terrain in originally, and then it had a bit less in later on. I can't remember. But sadly, Dead Zone version 2 could have done with a bit more terrain in it, just to make it a little bit more a bit more interesting, I think. Version 3 comes with more terrain in it. Mark says, I bought Dead Zone 2nd edition for the challenge alongside the Plague expansion, painted everything and never played. That's terrible, mate. There you go. Just give it a try. Honestly, you would not be disappointed with the game. The game is fab. And Tony's saying to Jill, yeah, let me check my stuff. I haven't glued it together. You can have it. He's a gent, isn't he, that lad? Anyway, I need a drink. Excuse me. But yeah, the newer version comes with some slightly different terrain, but it does come with so this is like kind of like a mix of like all sorts of stuff. So there's some of the wrecked stuff there on the side there, and some of the other bits and pieces. But yeah, so I've got a big full table of stuff, to be fair, for when I can get ready and playing. Tom says, Wild West Exodus might be a good for the next painting challenge on Marvel Crisis Protocol if you haven't done one yet. I haven't done either of those, mate, to be fair. I think it just depends on what folks are interested in at the time. I'm thinking about maybe doing a challenge. Jill mentioned something the other day about like sort of painting every day to try and like sort of to target like sort of like getting into a hobby streak type thing. I'm thinking about doing something along them lines, and then it opens it up to anybody to paint whatever they want, but trying to kind of sort of give people motivation and hold people accountable to just try and like kind of get into a streak. So yeah, I don't know what the next painting challenge will be, but I think we're due one. I think we're due one. We haven't had one for a little while now. So yeah. So I think was there anything else I wanted to kind of got anything else in my list? We've talked about Wild West Exodus, we've talked about Dead Zone, we've talked about Project Z, the Winter Campaign, Rivals. Was there anything else I guess the only other thing to kind of mention is, which is obviously the Black Templars, which have just been announced as well, which I must admit do look pretty cool. I'm not a huge kind of sort of 40k fan or anything like that, but I can't deny that they make some amazing models, and I do like the some of the character that they've done in these Black Templars. If I just, there is some nice sort of, I like the kind of like the swords with the chains around the wrist and stuff like that. And I'm always a big fan of the power claws as well. I'm not a huge fan of the haircut, but then again, who am I to talk about haircuts? But yeah, some of the, I like these kind of the Black Templar kind of stuff, and I like what they do with Dark Angels as well, which kind of gives that standard Space Marine kind of uniform a little bit of something different. And these again have certainly got that as well, with the extra little bits of, it's like some kind of candelabra on there as well. And yeah, nice to see some little bits of flourishes and stuff to the standard uniforms. But yeah, I think folks are going to love these. I think they'll certainly they'll sell well, and yeah, same as all 40k stuff. So yeah, but I think they're looking cool. People seem to be quite impressed with them. VG says, I was gifted Dead Zone 2 by Tim Kelly, and you could definitely use more terrain. I'm pretty sure it definitely had more in it originally. I feel like it had less in later on. Yeah, I've got a stack of terrain in like sci-fi terrain. A friend of mine basically was selling all of his 40k stuff. Wasn't going to play 40k anymore. He's playing kind of World War II games, and we just wanted to sell off a couple of mats and some sci-fi terrain. And it's already built and all painted, so I thought I would buy it and put it into my pile of stuff. It looks good for like photographs of stuff in the background. It looks good for stuff like just playing kind of any kind of random sci-fi games, really. So I've got a lot of sci-fi terrain painted up now as well. Andrew says, I did a hobby streak 2 years ago, not just painting. Tried this year and burnt out in April when work slammed me. Work has been slamming me again. Would be a try hard if we did that though. I think it's more about, it doesn't have to be like, I'm not sort of like having to finish certain models, just almost about even like 10 minutes a day, or 10 like sort of like so many minutes a week or something like that, just to try and it's about creating those like habits of getting stuck into it, and that, because it's dead easy. I'm as bad as anyone for like not painting for a while. It's dead easy just to get into a bit of a rut and not paint for a bit. Tom saying that would help me get my Pulp Alley stuff painted up. What do you think of Pulp Alley, Tom? It's a game I think I tried a demo of it probably about, it must be 6 or 7 years ago, and I can't remember a lot about it, to be fair. It was at Salute down in London. There were no kind of superhero games around at the time, and I must admit I liked the aesthetic of it, but I don't remember much about it, if I'm honest. John says, I like to think if I had hair I'd do better than that. Yeah, me as well. I think if I had hair like that, mate, I think I would still just shave it off. Just Kev says, new Black Templar really leaning on the nostalgia factor. It definitely is. But it is nice to have something a little bit different rather than just the kind of standard stuff. And Jill says, yeah, I was focused on doing half an hour a day, just as much to take the time for myself, needed the headspace. It's a great opportunity, basically, just to kind of switch off and stuff. I think what I'm finding is that if I'm in here during the day working, when it comes to kind of nighttime, I'm back in the house and I feel like I'm trying to get back into that work mode, but I'm also trying to switch off as well at the same time. My head's all over the place with all of my stuff I've been going on for the last few months now. It'll be, but yeah, I'm slowly getting back into it now, to be fair. Tyler says, opportunity October, get a project done that's been in your to-do list for at least 3 months. That's not a bad shout, mate, to be fair. Let me just turn my radiator off here. It's getting a bit warm in here now. So we're kind of, how we're doing for time? It's 10:30, 25 to 11. I've covered all the different topics I planned to talk about today. I'm happy to literally talk about anything now. If anybody's got any questions, if you want me to recap anything that we've been talking about during the stream tonight, if there's anything you want to Pulp City. Love Pulp Alley, don't mix it with Pulp City. I was mixing it up with Pulp City, mate. I've never heard of Pulp Alley in that case. Marco says, I'm looking forward to Tag Raid by Corvus Belly. I'll be honest, mate, I feel like that's another one of those games that it's going to Kickstarter. I don't think there's any plans to bring it to retail, the same as Defiance when they brought that out. The minis look nice. If you just want to buy the stuff just to kind of paint them and things, I think the minis look nice, but it doesn't grab me. Any games that are not going to come to retail makes me think I'm either going to regret not being able to get stuff down the line, or it's going to be really hard to pick up opponents because nobody else can get access to it. So I'm always a bit wary about that kind of stuff. Johnson, your head's in the shed. That's a northeastern phrase I've picked up since we came here. Yeah, head's a shed. My head is a shed. Like my head's a shed. That's kind of like I've always kind of that kind of phrase. Bacon talk. I'm off the bacon at the minute. I told you with all my health issues, any kind of salty bacon is definitely kind of doesn't get come up now. Peter says, which of the game features tonight do you like the most, Andy? Let me have a little look and kind of go through them. So I am a fan of Wild West Exodus. I love the miniatures. I think Dead Zone's probably the one that's kind of interesting me more at the moment. More because I just think it's a game that deserves a bit of a... It deserves a second wind. Like it's already a great game, and I'm hoping this kind of like this 3rd edition sort of new 2-player starter set gives it a bit of a push, and more people get the opportunity to try it and pick it up. And I'd love to see it do really well. Obviously, it's disappointing that I felt like Mantic launched it really well, like with the announcement for it. And the blogs and stuff like that, but I feel like we need to see a bit more of it. If I'm honest, like I think this is always the thing when stuff comes out too early. Is it too early? I don't know. I think I'm just talking rubbish now. But yeah, of all the things tonight, I would say probably Dead Zone is probably the one I'm probably the most looking forward to. Probably closely followed by Wild West Exodus. I think I'm kind of narrowing down the games that I'm obviously I like to talk about lots of different games, and I'll play anything, but I can feel my own personal tastes are narrowing down a lot to kind of certain types of games now, and they generally kind of skirmish games. It's got the exceptions, like I like Kings of War, but something with a nice kind of background, a nice visual aesthetic, nice looking minis, rules that are not too difficult. I can feel the kind. I could almost list off a list of games that I would, if I had to say, right, I'm only ever going to play these 5 or 10 rule sets for the rest of my life. I think I could quite easily kind of narrow it down now, to be fair. Tony says, I tend to take the occasional 1 or 2 day break just to keep me going, but work between hobbying and painting. Sometimes I'll put a bit of time into prep on an Indian banquet, which can take a chunk of time. I think it's nice to kind of have a little break. I think sometimes you need a break to basically not burn out. Tizzy Brain Drain says, rules question for Wild West Exodus. What does it mean when a mini is legendary? It essentially means, mate, that it is not part of the competitive rules anymore now. I think basically legendary minis are minis that were around when Wild West Exodus first came out, and they're probably considered maybe a bit overpowered, or they're maybe not like part of the background lore anymore now. So there are like legendary versions of these models basically. Tiberius is saying he's on a Carnival kick. I think there's a few people on a bit of a Carnival kick at the minute. It's another game as well, all that TT Combat. They just don't even talk about it. Like, I just don't understand it. They don't even talk about it on their Facebook page. They don't do anything on YouTube for it. They don't do it on social media. Like, TT Combat and Troll Trader as an entire business are a big company. Like, I think like Troll Trader are like the biggest, or if not the biggest, they're the second biggest distributor in the UK when it comes to miniature stuff. I just find it strange that they don't talk about their stuff. It's weird. Like of all the different miniatures companies, I don't think there's many of them do a really good job of kind of like of the marketing of their stuff. But TT Combat especially seems to never tell it. Like, they go to every event, they go to every convention, they always have a good stand. But like in social media land, it's like they don't even exist. I don't understand it. John said, I think Dead Zone's been let down a bit by old minis. The new sculpts are awesome, but they're been a bit drowned by the older ones. I don't disagree with you, mate. I know exactly what you mean. It almost could do with some new kind of refreshed kind of ranges, I think, to be fair. VG says, Kings of War actually feels like a skirmish game with flanking and facing. Completely does, mate. Yeah, it's one of the reasons I like the game, is that it kind of scratches that long-term project hobby itch. But it doesn't play like that. I don't feel it if I play a game, it's going to kind of last me 4 or 5 hours to play it. Andrew says he just got the phone. Does nobody say goodbye anymore? Kings of War is a really clean rule set. It is, Tom, mate. Yeah, it's one of the reasons I like it. It's just it's way more simple than I thought it would be. Tiberius is in TT Combat almost entirely silent on social media. Weirdly, if they break radio silence, it's to say they've got secondhand 40k stuff. I completely agree with you. I don't understand it. I do not understand it with Rumble Slam and with Drop Zone Commander and with Carnivale. I just don't understand why they do not talk about the stuff that they've got. Ariel Sanchez says, I'm going to give Conquest a try. Hello, Ariel, by the way. I must admit, I did get the Conquest starter set, and I wasn't overly keen on the original, on the Conquest, sort of the big mass battle game. But I must admit, I wouldn't mind giving the is it called First something? It's called, like the skirmish version. I wouldn't mind giving that a try, if I'm honest. VG says TT Combat seem more about selling MDF terrain to me. Yeah, I maybe they just make it. Even then, they don't really talk about it. Like I very rarely. I don't see them sending anybody out. Like sending any out, like sort of supporting tournaments. I don't see them sending any out for review. I don't see them doing any reviews on their own site. It just baffles me. I don't. Maybe they're doing fine without any of that stuff. But I just don't see why you wouldn't want to try and grow. John says, totally agree on the way Kings of War plays as a skirmish game. Also for me, it feels like it's a really big, significant battle too. I think it's the right balance of plays super fast, looks really impressive, and there's not a lot of games tick that box, to be fair. First Blood, that's the one, folks. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's I don't know a lot about it. I think the rules are free online. It's something I might take a little kind of trip into and have a look and do a little bit of digging, because it's something I feel like it's something that after a long time it's starting to pick up a little bit of momentum. So yeah, it's something I might take a look at. But yeah, the big kind of mass battle one, I've tried that a couple of times with demos and stuff. It's not really for me, I don't think, the big one. Vigi says, last argument in pointlessly long the game names. Yeah, that's what folks are saying there. So folks, I think what we'll do is then, since my throat's drying out and I feel like I'm starting to kind of come down with a bit of cold, I think we'll call that one a night. I will be back on Wednesday for the painting stream, because I've got I do have a hospital appointment tomorrow, but I'm fine for Wednesday. So yeah, so that's coming. That's we'll be fine for Wednesday. And anything else? Anything else I want to say? Just thank you for sticking with me, folks. I appreciate it. I've been a bit quiet on the Discord, and I've been a bit quiet on social media and stuff lately. I mentioned last week what the reasons behind that and stuff, but I feel like I'm getting to a kind of I'm getting my head back into a place where I'm kind of getting back to full steam. So we'll start to see the videos starting to come up again now. I've got a load of stuff in the pipeline. So yeah, stick with it, folks. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you on Wednesday for the Hobby Hangout. So take care, folks. Bye for now. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.